Very much for joining us. There is just now a statement coming out from the White House. The Biden administration is committing to giving every American a vaccine by the end of the summer. This week, the Biden administration is tackling a different theme every day with a series of executive actions and statements from Mr. Biden himself. And today the focus was on racial equality, a historical weak spot in this country since its very creation, as we have seen over the course of the last year, to put it mildly.
Yeah, the White House, Mr. Biden signed 4 new executive orders covering areas like discriminatory housing policies, the federal use of private prisons. It's all part of a campaign promise he made, of course, to help minority communities right across America.
And the simple truth is, our soul will be troubled as long as systemic racism is allowed to persist. We can't eliminate it. It's not going to be overnight. We can't eliminate everything, but it's corrosive, it's destructive, and it's costly. It cost every American, not just who felt the sting of racial injustice. We are not just a nation of morally deprived because of systemic racism. We're also less prosperous. We're less successful. We're less secure.
Well, let's bring in Dr. Rashawn Ray. He's a professor of sociology at the University of Maryland, College Park. Professor, thanks very much for joining us. Joe Biden is under a huge amount of pressure to address racial inequality, in part because the events of last year put a spotlight on it for all of Americans, and also because African-American voters got him elected, got him to the White House and got him the Senate. Do you think he can do more than President Obama tried to do?
Yes, I think so. And I think he's already showing it. I mean, President Biden, in a very short period of time, has assembled the most racially diverse cabinet in American history. Not only that, he removed Trump's executive order that was banning implicit bias and diversity trainings for federal employees. I do a lot of those trainings. That has been restored. That is something that is going to help people obtain equity. He also is ending private prison contracts. I really don't think people realize how significant this is. What happens with private prisons is that people are able to go on the stock exchange and actually purchase stock in private prisons. So people become invested in the incarceration of people who look like me. He also is extending important olive branches to people who are part of tribal communities. He is also ending housing discrimination and ending discrimination for Asian Americans who are particularly experiencing discrimination under COVID. So, I mean, he's doing a series of things, and he's not going to make the mistake that the Obama-Biden administration made in 2008, which is when the Democrats controlled the House, the Senate, and the White House. They moved slowly and aimed to negotiate. I think it's clear, based on some comments we've heard from Republicans, that Biden is going to steamroll his agenda through, and it is something that his voters definitely want.
There's a certain amount he can do with these executive orders, but other things he will need Congress to come on board with him, particularly around financial issues in the country that affect minority groups. Do you think he's going to get any buy-in from Republicans?
I think he will. You know, I think that there are some Republicans in what we call purple states or purple congressional districts who understand the importance of this. I think criminal justice reform is one of those, doing the research that I conduct, that there is bipartisan support. I do think that there are other things where they're going to have to push things through. I mean, look, Vice President Kamala Harris controls the tiebreaker in the Senate. There are things around reparations. There are things around education and student loan forgiveness that people want to see happen that can actually reduce the racial wealth gap. And I expect for Democrats and Biden to make it happen.
I suppose the ultimate litmus test right off the bat is how the country reacts to COVID, because we know that there is a disproportionate effect within coloured communities, within poor communities, and it tends to be those communities where poverty is so endemic.
I mean, without a doubt. Look, we know, and I've written about this extensively, that black people as well as Latinos are about 3 times as likely as whites to contract COVID. Well, part of the reason that's the case, and 3 times more likely to die from it, is because a study in 2020 found that black people were 6 times more likely to be turned away from COVID testing and treatment. So part of what I've been recommending in my work at Brookings and at the Hill is to say we need to utilize local trustees like black churches. That's starting to happen. And I think we're going to see a lot of momentum for vaccines, and we're going to start to see the communities hardest hit by COVID get the actual services and resources that they need. But it's an uphill battle, and we have to continuously stay on it.
Dr. Ray, it's always good to have you on the program. Your point about criminal